Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Season 3, Episode 6 of the West Philippine Sea Catch with the theme the PBBM Razon Malampaya Renewal, the who, the what, and the why. The West Philippine Sea Catch is an online talk show sponsored and hosted by the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea for the purpose of creating public awareness and to educate the Filipino people and the international community on the issues, breaking news, and current events in the West Philippine Sea. I am Dr. Celia Lamkin, the founder and the global chairperson of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, broadcasting live from Guam, USA. And with my co-host, I would like to call on Mr. Angelo J. Pedro. Sir Angelo?
Yes, Doc. Lamkin, good evening. I would like to call Dr. Celia Lamkin, the founder and global chairperson of the National Youth Movement for West Philippine Sea, and executive producer, director, writer, and host of the West Philippine Sea. For introduction into this today's webinar.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Angelo. Of course, Sir Angelo J. Pedro uh, is a senior high school student, and he is the chairperson of the Ilocos Sur chapter of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, live from Lawag City. Thank you so much, Sir Angelo. Again, of course, good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon in any parts of the world. I would like to welcome all the guests, participants from the different parts of the world, where 7 countries are being represented this evening. We would like to welcome the following diplomats from the Department of Foreign Affairs, media friends, government employees, professors, lawyers, geologists, banking, financial services, and commercial institutions executives, banking and securities retirees, medical doctors, dentists, accounting executives in USA, medical, pharma, biotech industry in the Philippines, computer programmers, energy, chemical and utilities industry, insurance company, real estate, advertising and marketing, fraternity organizations, nonprofit organizations, civic organizations, and of course, we have someone like professors from overseas, and we have someone also uh, here from the United States Navy, uh, from the mainland. And, and of course, we will be welcoming our guest speaker who will be introduced soon. And now, before we would proceed to the main segment of this event, I would like to read the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea disclaimer. Any views, opinions, comments, or presentation of facts of the guest speaker, panelists, guests, attendees, and netizens are personal and they do not necessarily reflect the stand and opinions of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, nor the organizations they are affiliated with. Now, let us put our right hand over our left chest, or we can stand for our Philippine national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyang ka ng magiting, sa malulupi, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhay. Ang dulag lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mag-aapi, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
I would like to call Dr. Lamkin to introduce our guest speaker for today's the West Philippine Sea Catch at episode 3, season 3, episode 6 of the National Youth Movement for West Philippine Sea.
Thank you so much, Sir Angelo. Before introducing our guest speaker, I would like to give an overview of Malampaya. The Malampaya gas field is a deep water gas condensate reservoir located in the Service Contract 38 license area, of course, located offshore 65 kilometers northwest of the island of Palawan, Philippines. The Malampaya project began its commercial operations in January 2002 and has been providing power up to 20% of the Philippines' growing electricity requirements. And of course, tonight, I would like to read first the short bio of our guest speaker, Yusek Eduardo Mañala. Yusek Eduardo V. Mañala is a former Undersecretary of the Department of Energy of the Republic of the Philippines. He is an exploration geologist and petroleum company executive, and with 35 years experience in national and international petroleum exploration and production management, acreage acquisition, government sharing contracts, and other joint venture negotiations. Yusek Mañala was appointed as President and CEO of the Philippine National Oil Company, or the PNOC, on August 30th, 2004. And also as President and CEO of the PNOC Exploration Corporation, or the PNOC EC, in September 2004. And subsequently became the chairman of the PNOC Energy Development Corporation, or the PNOC EDC, within the same time period. In these capacities, he succeeded in initiating new local exploration efforts, raising the national oil company's competitive edge, ensuring the viability of local investment, renewing foreign interest in local oil exploration and development, and establishing PNOC and the country's credibility in both the local and global oil industry. His professional career spans 35 years of experience, 28 of those with the US-based Phillips Petroleum Company, now the ConocoPhillips, in international petroleum exploration and production management, acreage acquisition, production sharing contracts, and other joint venture negotiations. Yusek Mañala attended the University of the Philippines in Diliman, Quezon City, Philippines, where he received a Bachelor of Science degree in geology in 1967, and where he completed postgraduate studies in petroleum geology through 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to present to you our guest speaker for tonight's event. Live from Manila, Philippines, let's all welcome Honorable Undersecretary Eduardo V. Mañala. Good evening, Yusek Mañala.
Good evening, Doctora, and good evening to everybody, the panelists and the the participants in tonight's webinar, the attendees. I see now about 43 of us registered, so that's I'm very encouraged by that. But so tonight as Dr. Celia said, the focus will be on Malampaya, the why, the who, and the what. Lately, it has been in the papers, it has been in talk shows, it has been in the Facebook, etc., etc. So I will try to, in today's webinar, give you a little more insight as to what Malampaya is really all about, especially with the last event that happened, which was the renewal of the service contract. So if you will, Doctora, can I share screen?
Yes, yes, Yusek Mangana. Thank you so much po.
Okay. All right. Good evening to everyone. I hope I'm able to clarify and to make a little more understood the issue of Malampaya, especially for our attendees and those who are newly attending these webinars that we've been holding. Okay, so Dr. Celia, very quickly, I will the Malampaya field is located, as Dr. Celia said, about 85 kilometers west of the northern part of Palawan. It is connected by a 800-kilometer pipeline all the way up to Batangas, where the gas is delivered to power plants totaling about a little over up to a maximum of 3,000 megawatts, which is about 20% of the Luzon capacity. To give you a clear idea of what we're going to talk about, let me clarify to everyone what the issues are. The issue is the Service Contract 38 and the Presidential Decree 87. In Presidential Decree 87, let me read it to you. This act, which are calculated to yield the maximum benefit to the Filipino people and the revenues to the Philippine government for use in furtherance of national economic development. So remember that. The service contract was meant for that, to explore and find and produce our oil, and at the end, for the country to gain maximum benefit from its own oil and gas. Now, how do we do that? We do that through the service contract system. And what does the service contract system require? It requires inviting qualified companies to explore and produce petroleum in our country. And who are these qualified companies? These are contractors that should be technically competent and financially capable. So those are the two important basic requirements of the contract itself. So going from that, I want to show you just very quickly slides of what the platform, the facilities, and the equipment are in Malampaya. On the upper left-hand corner is the platform itself. You can see how complicated and how huge this is, and this is in the middle of the West Philippine Sea in about 800 meters water depth. And here on the right is the same platform being towed to the location. Below is the pipe laying barge, which laid the 800-kilometer pipeline. As you can see, all these pipelines being laid down. So it is very technical. The company usually employs a huge team of researchers, geologists, reservoir engineers, etc., to help examine the rocks that are being recovered from the well, to see where the oil accumulation might be. So very quickly to show you on on the right hand side of the picture there, the entire process of exploring from the signing of the service contract 38 to actual production, where the service contractor earns its first revenue, spans a total period of about 12 years. Imagine that. From the time the service contract is signed to the time the production of gas happens, 12 years. And after service contractors Chevron, Shell, and PNOCEC had spent $4.5 billion. And that's why we need companies with very strong financial backing. So two things: technical expertise and financial backing. Those are the requirements for us to be for the company to be a service contractor and explore and produce in the Philippines. Right here, let me explain to you how the contractors are chosen, especially if the contractor is transferring rights and obligations. On the left-hand side, you will see the contractor. In this case, for example, Shell, no, or Chevron. Chevron assigned an affiliate to represent itself in the service contract, and that is Razon Malampaya Philippines. In this case, when a contractor assigns its interest to an affiliate, the approval by the government is almost automatic. It's a very cursory examination, knowing that the two companies are qualified. However, the qualification of the affiliate is dependent on that relationship with this mother company to be maintained during the entire period of the contract. If the contractor wishes to bring in a third party, in this case, like Chevron, selling his affiliate to Udena, or Shell selling its affiliate specs to Prime Infrastructure of Enrique Razon, we go the route, the lower half of this route. The third party, the contractor presents the documents describing who the third party is and asking for prior approval from the government. So the government examines and vets the qualifications, the technical and financial qualifications of the third party. So if the government can find the third party either qualified or not qualified. If it is qualified, the government then asks, is the project still high risk? In other words, is still in the exploration period. If it is still in the exploration period, the government would normally approve the third party, provided it is qualified. The government will not take the high risk of drilling exploration wells. Okay. However, if the government finds that the project is low risk, like what we have in Malampaya, where it is already producing, the government would usually take it take the interest being relinquished by the contractor. On the other hand, if the third party being presented by the contractor is not qualified and the project is still high risk, the government can either bid it out, okay, or have it ask the contractor to bid it out to look for another party that would be qualified. But again, if it is low risk, the government has the option to take it back. The important thing why I'm explaining this to you is that the government can take over the interest of a contractor without remunerating or without reimbursement of any expenses or any money back to the service contractor. Okay, that is key. So the two things that we will be looking at is technical expertise, financial backing, and the fact that if the government takes it back, no payment, freebie. Okay, as I've said, it took Shell and Chevron 12 years from the signing of the Service Contract 38 to first commercial production. It cost them about $4.5 billion, huge amount. That's why you have to be financially strong. Now, I just want to show you, it took them 12 years from signing to first revenue. Here comes Udena, who bought Chevron. And here's the timeline of events. I will not go through the timeline of events. What I want to show you is that in 7 months, Udena became a service contractor and was taking the 45% of Chevron and getting the benefits and the profits from Malampaya. 7 months from the time the subsidiary of Udena was created and was established in Singapore. On the other hand, the acquisition of Razon's Prime Infra of Shell's 45% took only 3 months from the time Razon bought the interest of MEXP to the approval by the DOE. It only took 3 months before it started getting the profits from Malampaya. Imagine that. So 12 years from the legitimate risk takers, Chevron and Shell, while these two unqualified companies took only 7 months and 3 months respectively. So let's talk about financial strength. As I've said, the requirement is financials. You must be strong. So here's how the Chevron-Udena deal was done. Here's how Udena paid for the $565 million purchase price from Chevron. On the left-hand side, you can see the fund sources that they use. $375 million in bank loans, $157 million from profits itself from the Malampaya shares. And they said they will raise $33 million equity raising. So what do you notice from these numbers? There was no money that came out of their own pocket. Kaya nga nasabi ni Senator Gatchalian during the hearing in the Senate na lutong Macau, ginisa tayo sa sarili nating mantika. Now, we thought this was the end of it. Now here comes Shell and MEXP deal, which is now owned by Prime Infra of Ricky Razon. The deal, the purchase price was $380 million. How was it paid for by Prime Infra? $160 million in bank loans, $220 million in additional loan funding, and special dividends from SPEC's excess funds. Another 80 million from contingent payments funded by specs operations. Again, nothing came out of Razon's packet. So, where is this financial strength? So that takes care of the financials. So what about the technical qualifications? We went through all potential subjects, sources, and we cannot find, I'll be very short about this, we cannot find any history of a work done by UDENA or Prime Infrastructure in the field of oil, petroleum exploration and production. Nothing, nada. Okay? So where is the technical qualification coming from? This is one of the major issues that we want addressed. In fact, in one of the talk show on TV, I challenged Mr. Razon's company to come up with, just a single instance, a single example of their experience in the past, either in the Philippines or in the other parts of the world, in the field of oil exploration and production prior to their Malampaya project. This was very evident in UDENA Corporation. There was none. In fact, the then Secretary of the DOE, Cusi, did not even vet the technical qualifications of UDENA. However, in the case of Prime Infrastructure, DOE Secretary Lutilla claims to have vetted the qualifications of Prime Infrastructure. So we are requesting and we are challenging the DOE to give us and to show the public an example or the result of their vetting process, to let us know, let the public know who Prime Infrastructure is before the Malampaya project that they got. We put it to them that there is none, there is no experience at all. In contrast, see what PNOC has, okay? Because in this case, we are insisting that the government should have taken the interests vacated or relinquished by Chevron and UDENA, by Chevron and Shell. As you can see, PNOC actually has 7 petroleum service contracts in Cagayan, in Malampaya, Mindoro, and the Calamianes. It is the operator in 3 and a non-operating partner in 4. PNOCEC also holds 6 coal operating contracts in various parts of the country. I list down here the PNOC officers and directors. And you can see that the Secretary Lutilla, in fact, is the ex-officio chairman of PNOCEC. This is his company. He knows the experience. And yet, they elected not to take over the Malampaya interest. Big question mark. Okay. So, this issue came about. We know that it has been approved back in 2022. And now what hit us very recently is the announcement by President Marcos that the government has renewed the Service Contract 38 for another 15 years. And just to give you an idea, in 2022, the contractor share out of the Malampaya profits amounted to $309 million. 309 million. Bear that in mind. So we question how come the government, first of all, approved the transfer of the interests instead of the government taking over the interests vacated by Shell and Chevron, and more concerning is the extension of the same contract by another 15 years. Here's a photo of the signing where Mr. Razon was proudly presenting the president a replica of the Malampaya structure. And after that, you see these kinds of headlines. The Malampaya Consortium to invest 600 million. Why? My position is, why can't the PNOC do that? That it can invest 600 million if you gave the 100% to him to earn 309 million a year. DOE itself says that to drill a well, it will cost them 80 to 90 million. So if you earned 300 million last year, if that went to PNOC, then you could have drilled 3 or 4 wells yourself, 100%. You know, it says, hey, now the Malampaya Consortium will drill beyond the existing production area. PNOC can do that as well if you gave it to them. And sadly, and more sad, is that they announced, DOE was very proud in saying that Philippines has more untapped gas fields. If DOE knows that, then why are you giving it away? Why don't you let PNOC explore and get the benefit of this untapped gas fields for the Filipino people? So I will, for now, quickly, just end it right here, because the next topic that I will bring up will be the media statement that Mr. Razon made a few weeks ago or a few days ago, which I had been unable to respond to. I don't have much connection with the media, so I will try to respond to them in this webinar later on with your questions, Dr. Lampkin. Okay, so is that fairly clear that what we are fighting for, or what we are concerned about, is the giving away of the Malampaya proceeds amounting to at least, based on last year's numbers, about $300 million every year to companies that are neither technically or financially capable as required by the law. And as such, we feel that the Filipino people has been shortchanged again. Instead of it getting this benefit, this money out of their own oil and gas. Okay. All right. Dr. Lampkin, I think I would, I tried to be as brief as possible.
All right.
Expecting that there will be some questions from the panel and from the listeners.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yusek Manyalak, for that very comprehensive and great presentation. A lot of information as to the Malampaya Consortium, of course, from Chevron to Udena, then the specs to Udena, then to Razon's Infra. So anyway, we will be having the questions of our panelists, Yusek Manyalak, and after this, we will be having our open forum to entertain the questions of our participants, the Zoom registrants, and even the participants here. And even if we have enough time, of course, there will be some comments in our FB page. So we will be starting. Okay. So thank you so much, Sir Ed.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Yusek Manyalak, actually, before I'll be calling the first panelist, I would like to kindly ask this question to you.
Yes.
What, Yusek, can you please kindly tell us what prompted you to serve as the Department of Energy Undersecretary of the Philippines in early 2000? Thank you, Yusek.
Very, very interesting question, Doctora. You know, after I retired from ConocoPhillips, out of China, out of Beijing, I came home and I had in mind really of serving, giving my services, offering my services to the government. And in my mind, giving service to my government, to our government, was just a form of my payback. As you know, I thought it was a payback to my country. As you know, during my time, the tuition fee in the University of the Philippines, where I studied geology, was only about 150 pesos, 100 pesos, a semester. So they're cheap at the time. Of course, at the time, maybe it's but 100 and 150 pesos. And I thought that with all the experience I've had overseas, that I can be of big help and be able to pay back, my country for the education it has given me. That was really the driving force.
Thank you so much, Yusek Manyalak, for that very kind response. Of course, for giving us your, I would say, the reason for coming back to the Philippines and serve our country under the Department of Energy, and of course, being the president uh, of the PNOC that time. Thank you. And now, of course, I would like to call now our panelists. This is uh, the first panelist is Honorable Maurice Philip Albaida. He's a councilor of the Kalayaan Municipality, of course, in our West Philippine Sea, part of Palawan. And he is the national chairperson and spokesperson of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea. So come live from Puerto Princesa City, Palawan. Good evening, Sir MP.
Good evening, Doc Celia. Good evening po sa lahat ng participants and magandang araw to any parts of the world that is witnessing this webinar.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
Opo.
do you have
So,
the
thank
question
you.
for
Uh-huh.
Yusek?
Opo, I have a question, Yusek Manalak. With all the developments with regard to the renewal of the service contractors of Malampaya last May 15, 2023. So probably that with the service contractors contract would be until February 22, 2039 or 15 more years from February 22, 2024. Yusek, how such a renewal affect the lives of an ordinary Filipino people and the energy security of the Philippines?
Well, let me answer the first point. How will it affect the lives of the Filipinos? As I've mentioned, the contractor share last year, as explained by the DOE, amounted to $309 million. $300 million that should have gone to the government through PNOC if the government elected to take the interest that were being relinquished or given up by Chevron and Shell. $309 million. So how much will that, for our fishermen, for example, we can buy them huge fishing vessels, to be able to go up against those huge boats of the Chinese. imbes na yung maliliit nating dekatig at saka yung mga kabyaw, this will be, we can buy hundreds of thousands of hand tractors, for example, for our farmers to modernize their equipment. We can build, we've calculated this so much, we can build classrooms. We will not be short of classrooms anymore and educate our children. We can pay our health workers that have remained, unpaid, most of them, owing out of the overtimes or stuff like that during the COVID. But anyway, it is the money that we are losing out to these private companies, and I will explain that later when the other questionnaires come in. But that's where the people are affected. As the law has said, we will try to maximize the economic benefits, out of the oil and gas that we find and produce. But we did not do that in this case. We gave it away.
That's a sad fact, Yusek, So definitely a huge amount of money is being taken away instead of being benefited. So this is particularly in the constituency that I am representing. As the representation, I would like to ask this, if the renewal of service contract of Enrique Razon's Prime Infra and Dennis Uys Odena was not signed by President Marcos Jr., how then would the people, particularly our people, our constituents in Kalayaan, would have, and the rest of Kalayaan, could have benefited from Malampaya simula pa po nung sila yung nag-take over from Chevron and Shell?
Right. Yun nga sabi ko, no? Kung kinuha ng gobyerno yon, imbes na binigay kay at pinayagang makuha ni Prime Infra at saka ni Udena, dapat ang gobyerno ang nakakatanggap nung kita, no? At kung may pera ang gobyerno, then pwedeng maibigay, matulungan, at dapat nga na i-develop na ang pag-asa na nandun sa gitna ng West Philippine Sea na pinanggagalingan ng langis natin. It behooves the government to develop that the island, improve the infrastructure, build a modern airport, encourage tourism perhaps, put up a hotel or something like that, because nandun na siya, yun ang pinakamalaki nating isla na madidevelop, Ang problema palagi ay pera. Yun ang madidinig mo sa gobyerno, di ba? Walang pera. O eto na yung pera. Ba't pinamigay mo pa?
So that's a sad fact. Pero rest assured po that we in the municipality of Kalayaan, as the representative of the people, we will do our best po together with you in the fight of reassuring that the government and the people of the Philippines would benefit from this. Yes. Malampaya. Maraming salamat po, Yusek.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir MP, for that great question, and Yusek Manyala for that, of course, a great answer. And now I would like to call, of course, our co-host here, Sir Angelo Pedro from Lawag City, live from Lawag City. As I said, he's a senior high school student, and he's the chapter chair of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, Ilocos Sur chapter. Good evening, Sir Angelo. Again.
Good evening, Dr. Lamkin. My question for you, Yusek Manyalak, is if the renewal of service contract of Enrique Razon's Prime Infra and Dennis Uys Udena was not signed by President Marcos, how the people of Pag-asa Island in Kalayaan and the rest of Kalayaan Islands could have benefited from Malampaya?
Yeah, I thought I answered that earlier question from Mr. Albayda, and I was saying that the profit that will be made And I said the last year, the contractor share was $309 million. Should have gone to the government and should have been used and could have been used for the benefit of the people and the development of the country. You know, and it could have been very, since Pag-asa is in the middle and very close to the field, you know, then, and for security purposes also, it could have developed it much quicker. It would have the funding and the money to be able to do that.
Thank you, Yusek Manyalak. And another question po. There has been many news about Enrique Razon as a response to your statement that he has no technical qualification last week. In a May 2023 news article of Inquirer, Enrique Razon said that, and I quote, I say and I quote, it is appalling to hear Mr. Manyalak argue for the supposed losses of the government or the Filipino people when we know that he is the same character who brokered the tripartite agreement for the joint marine seismic undertaking among the Philippines, Vietnam, and China, essentially compromising Philippine territory by allowing the two countries to explore our natural resources without government supervision. Yusek Manyala, can you please kindly explain to us what is this joint marine seismic undertaking? Thank you po.
Right, right. But first of all, let me express my shall we say disappointment with Mr. Razon's statements. You know, because as the way it was stated, it is very obvious that it was an attempt. It was an ad hominem, an attempt to destroy somebody's character, no, and it's not. It is so inappropriate or so below the stature of who Mr. Razon is. You know, he is supposed to be the one of the richest billionaire in the country, and to say those things, you know, reflects a bit of his character. But let me share with you some slides. I think it's a high time that we explain what the JMSU is, because I think Mr. Razon doesn't understand what it is.
Sure, Yusek, you have the floor. The floor is yours.
Let me share. Can I share?
Yes,
Yes,
Yusek.
yes.
Okay. Here's this is a 3-page thing. It's not very long. I'll just read over it. The tripartite agreement. This is the JMSU, Joint Marine Seismic Undertaking. The tripartite agreement for a joint marine seismic is a 3-year cooperative agreement between CNOOC, Petro-Vietnam, and PNOC to jointly gather seismic data in certain areas of the South China Sea. It is connected with the country's effort, the government's effort to acquire or to reach energy independence for the people. You see, with our high dependence on imported petroleum and with the rising oil prices in 2004, the government under then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo launched an ambitious 5-point energy independence program. That 5-point independence agenda consists of developing our own indigenous petroleum resources, promote renewable power, increase the use of alternative fuels, and form regional strategic alliances and strengthen energy conservation programs. The JMSU was part of our 5-point energy independence agenda to find and develop new indigenous petroleum reserves. It is not my idea. It is the idea of the government as part of its energy independence strategy. You asked the constitutionality of the JMSU. At that time, before we were even negotiating or before the signing, PNOC was extremely careful and consistent in ensuring the constitutionality of the JMSU. PNOC closely coordinated with concerned agencies such as the DOE, the DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs, the Department of Justice, to ensure complete staff work. The JMSU is a commercial and cooperative agreement between 3 national oil companies to jointly acquire seismic data. No exploration drilling and no production activities were covered by the agreement. The JMSU is simply a data gathering effort among 3 oil companies. As I've said, the JMSU is not a treaty, and if at the end of 3 years of the JMSU and no new definitive agreements are agreed on, then the JMSU expires, and it expired in June 2008. It must be clear that the President did not sign the JMSU, nor did the Department of Energy. It was the Philippine National Oil Corporation, headed by myself at the time. However, and this is the most important thing to understand, and I bring the attention of Mr. Razon to this, the approval of the respective governments of the 3 oil companies was required to make the commercial agreement binding. In other words, the signee or the signer by himself. It needs the approval of the government and the backing of the government to make this agreement work. The JMSU explicitly stated that the signing of the commercial and cooperative agreement shall not undermine the position held by the Philippine government over the South China Sea. It is very clear on that. The agreement is designed to be scientific in nature and does not affect any territorial claims of any country, either by the Philippine government or Vietnam or China.
Thank you, Yusek, for your response.
Hold on. Here's the
Oh.
last part. The JMSU was supported by the Philippine government to promote regional energy security. It hoped to contribute to the transformation of the South China Sea into an area of peace, cooperation, and development. It was part of a strategic alliance to promote regional energy security to lessen the region's dependence on Middle East oil. So, Prime Infra and the company MEXP, it brought, let me bring it back to the discussion we're having today. He claims that I am making unsubstantiated claims against the SC consortium, right? In his statement. So, Prime Infra and the company MEXP it brought from the equally unqualified Dennis Uy are devoid of any exploration or production experience prior to Mr. Razon buying into the Malampaya service contract. In fact, the president of Prime Infra himself said, and I quote, "This is our first foray into the petroleum industry," unquote. The 2022 prospectus of Prime Infra, in its description of its interests and investments, mentions nothing about the company's involvement in the oil and gas exploration and production. No legitimate research, and we did a lot of research, yields any history or information regarding Prime Infra's claim that it is technically qualified to explore, drill for, and produce oil or gas. The original service contractor, Shell, which Prime Infra replaced, is a vertically integrated company in all facets of oil exploration and production, and has been in the business for decades. For Mr. Razon information, Presidential Decree 87 requires that the service contractor must be technically competent, and financially capable. So I ask Mr. Razon now through this webinar, can you provide at least one instance of your company's involvement in finding and developing oil and gas here in the Philippines or anywhere in the world? If you can give me one example, just one, I will stop talking about your technical expertise. I will give in to your claim that you are technically expert, but just give me one example. On the other hand, let me challenge the DOE to present documents vetting Prime Infra and UDENA, which they said is technically competent. Show us the proof that Prime Infra possessed the required technical qualifications and experience prior to becoming a service contractor in Malampaya. That is a challenge or a request or whatever you call it, but I'm asking for that information from Mr. Razon and from Mr. Lutilla. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Angelo and Yusek Manyalang.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very, I would say, very informative. It's only now that I'm learning about the JMSU. That's like you said, there was no such thing as oil exploration that has been done during the tripartite agreement, and there was just a gathering of a data. So in the South China Sea, I think that's very different from what has been circulated, right in the news in the last few days.
Right. The important thing to know or to understand is that it was a product of work done by the different departments of the government. It was not done by one individual person. It was not negotiated. It was not, the head of delegation in the negotiation of the JMSU was the Department of Foreign Affairs. Not even the DOE, not even the PNOC. The head of the delegation in the negotiation team was the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Yusek Manyalang, thank you so much. As a follow-up question, because I know this was signed, as you said, way back in 2008. Am I right?
2005.
2005, yes. I am just curious, how come the order of the Supreme Court to make this agreement unconstitutional was just this January of this year, you said?
Well,
After 18 years.
yes, the decision of the Supreme Court is the decision of the Supreme Court. In fact, President Arroyo herself quickly accepted the decision. That's the Supreme Court's decision, and I do so too. I second the motion to the comment of President GMA. For what reason, we don't know. But if that's their decision, that it is unconstitutional, then so be it. However, I must point out, as I've said, this is how it was developed. It was done. It expired in 2008. We have the data. Contrary to what some sectors are claiming, that we don't have the data from the seismic information that was gathered. Yes, we have that. So no, I cannot comment on the wise the reasons for the Supreme Court's decision.
I do understand, Yusek. Thank you so much for your answers, Yusek Manyalang and Sir Angelo. All right, now we would like to call now our next panelist. Joining us live from Villamor Air Base, Pasay City, Philippines, is Captain Caruso M. Tagal. He's a former military pilot and a retired airline pilot of the Philippine Airlines, and he is our Director of Membership, of course, of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea. Good evening, Captain Tagal.
Good evening, Dr. Lampin, and good evening, Yusek Ed Manyalak.
Good evening. Good evening.
I have a question here for you.
Yes, please.
Maybe a follow-up to your aforementioned response a while ago. Anyway, there's been many news about Enrique Razon as a response to your statement that he has no technical qualification. And he countered, or as a rebuttal, by saying that, wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute, there's something wrong with my.
Captain Tagal is having some kind of technical difficulties. Captain, would you like to call our next panelist?
Yeah, the next panelist first, please.
Yes, yeah, I do apologize for that. Okay, so Captain Tagal, or maybe you can fix your technical difficulties there. Now, I would like to call our next panelist. Joining us live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, is Mr. Gerald Stella Jr. He's an IT specialist and a software engineer, and also he's the counter chairperson of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, Malaysia chapter. Good evening, Sir JR.
Good evening, Dr. Celia. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Secretary Ed Manyanak.
Hi, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. So my question is, because I think in your previous webinars, we have discussed also about the Chevron Odena. So the question is, what is the difference of this Chevron Odena deal from this new one, the SPEX Shell Razon deal? What's the difference between the two? Thank you.
Okay. The main difference is that in the Chevron Odena deal, it was openly admitted by the DOE and by Chevron and Odena themselves that it does not need, the deal that they made did not require government approval. And since it did not require government approval, then it did not require vetting of their technical and financial qualifications, which the then Secretary of DOE, Kusi, was supportive of that position. So it was in fact very openly not in accordance with what the law was requiring, and that the law required that if you are transferring your rights and obligations in the service contract to a third party, you must seek prior government approval so that the government would have a chance to vet, to evaluate your technical and financial qualification. That's the situation that happened in the Chevron Odena deal. And because they did not do the vetting and they just let the process go, then Odena was able to come in as a service contractor. On the other hand, on the Shell Prime Infra, Mr. Razon's company, they were aware of that problem in the Chevron Odena deal. They were afraid. They were aware that the problem was that not only it was not qualified, but that the fact that it did not go through the government vetting. So they made sure that in the Shell and the prime infrastructure deal of Razon, that they would go through the vetting. That DOE said they would go through, evaluate MEXP. So we said, that's good, that's great. Not knowing that although it has no technique, and that's why we're asking for, Mr. DOE, can you give us the results of your vetting? Because we don't think MEXP is, or prime infrastructure for that matter, has the technical expertise. But you were saying that you vetted it, you evaluated them, you went through the process, and you found them technically capable. So we want to know how you vetted it. That's the difference. That's the similarity and the difference. The similarity is that we believe there is no technical expertise, and the difference is that Chevron and Udena deal went through, did not go through the approval process, while the Shell Razon deal went through that. Is that am I getting clear?
Yes,
am I clear
yes,
on that
sir.
one?
So in
But
the
the
end,
same-
both is questionable, sir.
The same ending.
Yes, yes.
Both are still technically unqualified,
Mm,
although the other one was supposed to have been vetted. So we're asking for, where are the results? You show us.
yes. Thank you for that answer, Secretary. Just a follow-up, maybe unrelated question, sir. Because here in Malaysia, what I know is their oil is there's an incentive. I mean, the government lessened the price. I mean, I think same with Indonesia. Is it if the PNOC was able to get the Malampaya, is it also the same thing would have happened to us? Can you expound with that, sir? Thank you.
Yes, the quick answer is yes. It is very possible, because since you control the oil or gas already, the government, like in Malaysia and Indonesia, could say that, hey, we will reduce our profit, just lower the cost, the price of oil and gas. After all, it is ours. We are in control. They are in control. And they can do that. So it's easier to, and that's really part of the strategy of when we say energy independence and energy security, is that the Philippine government controls, the country controls your supply of gas and oil. You own the oil. If you want to lessen, if you can lessen, you can decrease your profits and sell the oil or gas cheaper to help the people out. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're saying, that you should have taken over the Malampaya gas, so that when electricity prices are going up, the major part of electricity rate is the fuel. So if you can reduce the cost of fuel, that will affect directly the cost of electricity as well. So it is important that the government aims, or one of its goals should be to take control of its oil and gas reserves. That was the opportunity offered by the departure of Chevron and Shell. But no, we did not do that, and we gave it to another private party, and who would now control that, the oil and gas.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much,
You're
Sir
welcome.
JR and Yusek Manyalak. And thanks also for, sharing your, Malaysia's situation there, why the gas is cheaper, right? So thank you so much, Sir JR. Okay, Yusek, may I kindly ask you, that's a good one. So you can be in the frame of the Zoom. So we can always see you. All right. Now we're calling again Captain Caruso Tagal. I think he already fixed his technical difficulties. Captain Tagal, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There has been a mix-up. Anyway, this is just a very short question. It has already been answered. It just need to be expounded more. And my question, how did Enrique Razon's infra acquire shale exploration or specs in Malampaya? And why did the government approve Enrique Razon's prime infra if we did not meet the technical requirements, etc., etc.? There's something here we do not know that might connect the dots. If you have any inside info, Yusek?
Yeah, that's a tough question, Captain, you know, because what you're asking for, and this I've also said in another talk show, what you're looking for is what I call the deeper truth to this deal. That deeper truth, we cannot, well, in other words, I'd leave that to the courts.
Yeah, we can only
know.
surmise.
But what is quite clear to us is that the actions and the decisions taken by the government in the approval of the transfer of the rights in the service contract to Udena and to Ricky Razon are all not in accordance, are in violation of the law. It's not in accordance with the provisions of the law. That's why I'm saying, just give us one proof, one evidence that you had technical expertise, technical experience in the past. Now or way back in the past, just let us know. I explored for oil in Nigeria, or I had my geologist go to Iran or China to explore. Just give me one example, from both companies, Udena and Razon.
Thank you very much. So that was such an enlightening answer. Going back to you, Dr. Alankin.
Thank you so much, Captain Tagal and Yusek Manyala. As a follow-up on that one, Yusek Manyala, of course, in the news we have read already when Secretary Lotilla, Rafael Lotilla, the Department of Energy, was asked for comment, after with regard to this technical competency of the Razon's infra. He mentioned that he's been operating the Malampaya for the past 6 months already. What would be your response to that comment of Secretary Lotilla, Yusek Mayala?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Doctora, because that has been asked also in the past interviews. The question is, do you gain expertise by hiring experts or by hiring consultants, which effectively what Razon did, with this purchase of specs. So what Mr. Lutilla is saying, that he hired this or he bought this company that can do the work for him, and that's okay. They've been doing it the past 6 months. So my next question is, if you are agreeable to that and you will say that that is acceptable as expertise to comply with the law, why can't the PNOC do that yourself? If you're saying that, hey, we are not capable, we're not, yeah, but by buying this company or by hiring consultants, you can run it and it's acceptable to you. Why can't the PNOC do the same thing? That, that's quite a telling, it will be a telling question, and I would be interested in hearing Mr. Lutilla's response to that.
Yes. I fully understand Yusek Manyala for that, because if the private sector can hire technical experts, and why not the PNOC, which is our government, can hire technical experts too, right?
Correct.
And by the way, as you have mentioned, PNOC has been there for so many years. So I think, like what you said in the previous webinars, the PNOC could have prepared for the expiration of this service contract in February 2024. So it will be controlled by the government through the PNOC. Yes.
That's
All
correct.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Yusek Manyala. And now, of course, our next panelist is joining us live from San Francisco, California. He's Engineer Rado Barrientos, and he is a licensed flight operations officer, aircraft dispatcher at the Philippine U.S. in the airline industry for 18 years, and he's an aeronautical engineer and the state chairperson of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, California chapter. Good morning, Engineer Rad. I know it's good morning there already. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Celia Lamkin, and good morning, Yusek Manyala.
Good morning.
It's good to see you here and trying to educate us about Malampaya, which full of issues and I would probably say fraudulent transactions. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like to ask my own question. Medyo umiinit na. Kaya painit ng painit yung pinag-uusapan natin. Teka, sandali lang ha. I'm sorry. Binabasa ko kasi sa cellphone ito eh. Kaya medyo...
All right.
Biglang nag-jump.
Okay. So maybe, Engineer Rad, do you want me, maybe I would like to, can you fix that before, are you ready now?
Here it is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. This is a question since last year. There were PhilAm complainants from the U.S. who filed a case against Chevron USA at the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. What were the grounds for filing such case at U.S. SAC? What are the importance and updates of this case? Yusek Manyala.
Right. I think the main reason behind that SEC case is the way Chevron reported the transaction between itself and Udena, and the apparently different way the transaction was described, as evidenced in the Senate Committee on Energy hearings. In other words, what we're saying is that the Chevron might have overstated the purchase price of Udena, meaning they reported in their annual report or in their books that the purchase price was $565 million dollars, but in the hearing, PNOC President Brigues at the time claimed that part of that payment came from the profits accruing to the share of Chevron themselves. So that in truth and in reality, the actual purchase price is much less than what Chevron is claiming to their shareholders. So that would be a violation, I think, of the some violation of some SEC rules. So that case was filed in the SEC. The other reason why it was filed is that we really wanted to find out what the real score is in that deal. You know, I don't think there were a lot of question marks left out in the Senate committee hearings, even after 4 of those hearings were made. So the shareholders, Filipino shareholders of Chevron, are trying to secure documents from Chevron to give light to what really is the score regarding the actual buying purchase price by Odena of Chevron shares. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yusek Manyala.
Okay.
Another question I have is, do you think the energy security issue of Malampaya can become a national security issue after the renewal of the service contract until 2039? How and why?
Well, the risk there, because of what happened, is that as PD 87 has recognized, oil exploration and production business is a very risky business. No, I mean, half of the wells you drill, on the average worldwide, may be dry, maybe even more than that. You know, maybe 80% are dry, meaning you don't find oil or gas, and meaning that the money you spent, the tens of millions of dollars you spent in drilling a well is gone, thrown away. So we need help from legitimate oil companies to drill, especially in the West Philippine Sea, where a strong, militarily strong country is claiming the same area. So, in answer to your question, it makes it more difficult for us to drill for oil and gas in the conflicted area of the West Philippine Sea, because no legitimate company would come in and join forces with the Philippine government in exploring for oil when they know that somehow the government can force you out, or will decide not to extend it, not to extend the contract, but at the same time, after you leave, they extend it to a local, crony firm. In other words, they will be fearful. The risk of the economic risk and political risk will be high. So walang tutulong, walang papasok na mag-explore. Kailangan, we need the money from these companies to start exploring, especially in the West Philippine Sea. And that affects your effort to find more reserves, which would affect your effort to gain energy security and hopefully energy independence, really. That would be the effect.
In other words, delikado pala mag-invest dyan sa Pilipinas.
Exactly, because that would be the first question the legitimate oil companies ask of their explorationists. What is the political risk in that country?
Yeah.
Because
Alright.
they will be investing millions, even billions of dollars, like what they did. They spent in Malampaya $4.5 billion. That's why they were asking for an extension. They wanted to discuss the subject of extension even as far back as 2015, so that they can plan what exploration and how exploration will be done to prove more reserves and lengthen the life of the field, lengthen the life of the infrastructure that we're using there. Unfortunately, the Philippines did not decided not to do that, and instead give the extension, 15-year extension, to two unqualified companies.
So,
All
so
right.
talaga pala yung sa Manyanak, this is really paramount that we really need to straight up what's this Malampaya issue, because this is basically bad for our investment climate in the Philippines.
Yes, and what I'm afraid of is that our officials, don't understand the dynamics of this. You will hear differently from Ricky Razon. He is all out. I will, I am your savior. I will be the one to bring you energy security. I think that was the headline in one of the papers, the Tribune here in the Philippines, that all of a sudden, Mr. Razon is Mr. Energy Security himself. Now, it's very hard to imagine how that will happen.
All right. So
Thank you, Yusek Manyalak.
You're welcome, Rat.
thank you very much, Engineer Rad and Yusek Manyala. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going now to the open forum, and we will be reading the questions of our participants. And maybe some of them are still here to ask the question, or I can read the question. This is a question coming from Sir Sunny Fernandez. He is an independent journalist. Sir JR, maybe we can promote Sir Sunny if he wants to ask a question. Sunny Fernandez. Okay, Sir Sunny, we are promoting you so you can ask your question, please. Or Sir Sunny, please accept it so you can ask your question. All right. I think some of the question of okay, maybe I'll just read his question. Sir JR, can you please promote Sir Sunny?
Already promoted, Dr.
Okay. So Sir Sunny, is he in already?
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay, Sir Sunny. Good evening, Sir Sunny.
Okay. Sir,
Can you turn your video, please? Okay, thank you.
okay na? Naka-video na, sir. Okay.
We cannot see you, Sir Sunny. No?
Okay, ayan.
Okay, great. Okay.
Hello,
How
sir.
are you, Sir Sunny? Okay.
Yes. Regarding the renewal of the Malampaya service contract 38, do you think money changed hands? Kasi questionable ang qualifications, questionable ang shares sales transaction, questionable ang contract awards processing. Kahit sinong ordinaryong tao pag tinanong nyo, baka nagkabigayan? Related to that question is, because of these three major major issues, aren't Marcos Jr., Lopilla, Razon, Uy, others accountable? And related to that, last question is, what do you plan to do? Kasi I remember during the Duterte administration, sila Kusi and Uy were held to ombudsman. Are going to do the same? Papa-ombudsman nyo ba? Magpapa-TRO ba kayo? Papa-investigate nyo ba sa Senate kung legit ito, valid yung renewal ng contract na yan? So yun po yung three questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. I think what you're asking is what's next, after, and I think you're right. The next step would naturally be a lawsuit, perhaps because for every, as you know, there is already a case filed with the Supreme Court, no? I think it was filed by Mr. Secretary Ruben Torres for a TOR, you know, ag- against the Chevron Udena deal.
Yeah.
And that case is pending or lies with the Supreme Court now. So there are legal moves being done against the first, in the case of the first case, Chevron and Udena. And I would think that there would be also cases filed, you know, arising out of the uh, uh, Razon Shell deal, you know, with the hope that the courts would help decide, you know, the direction of this issue. You know, our hope against hope is that the president starts to understand or realize what's going on and do something about it. You know, that's why we were very disappointed when he announced that he has approved the renewal for 15 years of this service contract, meaning 15 years more for these two, again, unqualified companies to be taking away the profits that should have gone to the Filipino people. I don't know how a president would look at that, you know. So we have several questions in mind as far as the president is concerned. We're not sure what he understands about the law. We are not sure about you know, what he understands about the standing of these two companies. You know, we don't even know whether he understands that the government can take the shares of these companies in the contract free of charge, you know. Because I still hear the side of Lutilla that, hey, you know, we cannot afford it. We cannot, it's too expensive. The PNOC has no money. But you don't have to pay for those, you see. So we are not sure what President Marcos understands about the law. That we've been trying to reach him. We've been trying to reach out to him to be able to determine what you know, what he knows and what he does not, and hopefully be able to explain it to him so that he can make a right decision. Thank you.
Sir, hindi kaya nagkabayaran somewhere along the way?
Yan ang hindi natin masasabi, you know.
You can just speculate.
Pero you believe they are all accountable?
I think so, you know, that
Although Marcos is still under immunity, no? Kasi president.
well, we a constitutionalist, sino ba? Si Father Bermas ba?
Bernas, Joaquin.
Bernas. Indicated that maybe, you know, the president can be sued even during his term of office.
Okay.
But as you've said, you know, you know, will probably end up, you know, where the courts will be deciding on this. But we're confident that our interpretation of the law, the reading of the law, and the application of the law is according to what we're saying.
Thank you.
Yusek Manyala, can I comment?
Sure.
Yeah. Sir Sani Fernandez, ano, ang ginagawa kasi natin dito ngayon is public awareness. hoping that the president will also be, informed in such a way that he will, do something good for our country. Itama yung mga pagkakamali dito sa nakikita naman natin na may mga pagkakamali di ba? So we are trying to help the president to be, aware of this, and then for him to do something about it. Kasi we are not talking about, suing the government or suing the president in this matter. Kasi if we talk about constitutional problem here, this is very well an issue of impeachment again. As you know, an impeachment trial in in the lower house and the upper house will not prosper dahil alam mo namang alay ni Presidente karamihan na nandyan. So we are not going to that premise. We just want the President to correct what has to be corrected. Parang ganun ang ginagawa natin ngayon.
Yep. That's why, our
Very
question
much,
always
Engineer Raj, for your comments. And Sir Sani, thank you so much for those
Thank you.
questions. And Yusek Manyala, thank you so much. All right. We will be calling Ma'am Lenny Lectura. She's a reporter of the Business Mirror. Ma'am Lenny, Sir JR, can you please promote Ma'am Lenny, please? Lectura.
Promoting na po.
Okay. Okay, Ma'am Lenny, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Sir, sorry I can't turn off my cam. I'm in transit.
Okay.
Sir, I would like to ask, have you seek any audience with the president, PBBM, in order to further explain to him so he could further understand what the situation is? And second, back then 2004 or 2005, if I'm not mistaken, there was a move to sell 5% of PNOCE's stake to a Korean firm.
Mhm.
Back then, did you support the sale? And if yes, why? And what happened? Thank you, sir.
Right. Let me address your second question, because before I forget, the instruction to sell the 50%, meaning the 5% of the 10% of PNOC, came from the government, came from the Department of Finance, and supported by the executive, by the president. And the reason why, given why the effort to sell at least half of the PNOC's share at the time, is that if you remember, the PNOC paid 100+ million for the 10%, and so inutang yon daw. So what the government is saying, we have to pay that, and you have to raise the money, and so they gave the instruction to sell half of it. Of course, I was against it, but you have to follow, you argue against it, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, you try to obey it, obey the instructions as best you can. But at the end, it was not completed. I guess the NEDA at the time, headed by Secretary Neri, was able to convince the administration, to keep the whole of the 10%. That's my recollection. Hello.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
For the other question, sir, have you seek any audience, or are you planning to seek an audience with the president?
Well, we've been trying to reach out to him, uh, either directly or through some other means, but we did not succeed. I cannot. I'm not in a position to mention the people we tried to connect through to him. But no, there was a number of letters actually written sent by the National Youth Movement for West Philippine Sea under the signature of Dr. Lampkin, asking questions and actually seeking a meeting with him. Is that correct, Doctora?
Yes, Yusek Mangyaka, we did ask for a meeting. We requested for a meeting.
Hmm.
And we have sent several letters also, of course, informing him about the situation in Malampaya, our concerns.
Right.
So,
Thank you,
Ma'am
sir.
Betty. Yes, I would like to add on that, Yusek Manyalak, maybe to supplement Ma'am Lenny Lectura's question. The National Youth Movement for the West Philippines has been sending letters to President Bongbong Marcos with regard to these Malampaya issues as to the, of course, Yusek Manyalak has explained already about the technical qualifications of and financial capability of Udena from the very beginning. So I think since last year of August, we've been sending him. So
Right.
and 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 maybe I would like to add on that one. And this is the reason why on May 15, the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea uh, has had this open letter to President BBM protesting and condemning the extension or the renewal of this service contract uh, in Malampaya. And we will be showing this letter. Maybe this is about time to show to everyone here that the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea strongly protests and condemns the approval by President Ferdinand R. Marcos for the extension of service contract number 38 of Malampaya for another 15 years until February 22, 2039. Presidential Decree 87, or the Oil Exploration and Development Act of 1972, mandates that said activities should ensure maximum economic benefits to the Filipino people. Malampaya is currently operated by Prime Infrastructure Capital owned by Enrique Razon Jr., Udena Corporation owned by Dennis Uy, and the Philippine National Oil Company or PNOC, a government-owned corporation. Prime Udena each controls 45% interest or a total of 90% interest in the gas field. PNOC holds the remaining 10%. Uden and Prime Infra earn about 50 million pesos a day each or a combined 100 million pesos every day from Malampaya operations. The same amount the Philippine government could earn had it taken full control of the operations of the gas field. Contrary to claims that two private service contractors are new to the petroleum exploration and production industry and therefore do not have the technical experience to operate the Malampaya gas field. NYMWPS, of course, so the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, has previously written several letters to President Bongbong Marcos and Department of Energy Secretary Rafael Perpetual Lotilla, objecting to the processes by which Prime then acquired the Malampaya interest from Shell and Chevron because they allegedly do not possess technical expertise and financial capabilities as required by the law to operate the gas field. The extension of the service contract for 15 more years in favor of Enrique Razon, Prime Infra, and Dennis Udena by President Bongbong Marcos is a clear failure of government to benefit fully from our own petroleum resources, leading to government failure to respond effectively to public welfare needs. Signed on behalf of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, yours truly, Dr. Celia Lamkin, MD, founder and global chairperson of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea.
Very
For
good.
the President Marcos, right now, as a follow-up of this open letter, we are urgently requesting you to rescind the renewal of the Service Contract 38 with Odena Corporation and Enrique Razon's Prime Infra. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to read the open letter of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea. Thank you, Ma'am Lenny and Yusek Manyala. Ma'am
Thank
Lenny, okay, sorry, you can continue if you still have another question.
I'm good, ma'am.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Ma'am Lenny, for that excellent question. And Yusek Manyala, I would like to ask Mr. Hector Tarazona. So, JR, could you please promote Mr. as a panelist to ask his question? Mr. Hector is has a question. He's an independent consultant, of course, under the financial services. Is he still here?
Promoting na po.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Sir JR. Already, Sir JR?
He's here already.
Okay, all right. Is he there, Sir JR?
He's a panelist already, but he doesn't talk. Sir
Okay,
Hector,
sir.
you can ask the question, sir.
Mr. Tarazona, could you please, he's a panelist already?
Yes, sir. Yes.
The floor is yours, Mr. Tarazona. Sir Hector, please.
Question is very simple.
All
Are
right,
there
thank you.
enough reserves in the Malampaya right now in the old at the old place? And then if there are, how long will it last? The second question is, if it lasts, are we making another place for the oil extraction at West Philippine Sea?
Doctora, can you reread or I could hardly.
Sir Hector, can you please repeat your question? Yusek Manyala didn't really get the question clearly. Thank you.
The question is, are there enough reserves, oil reserves in the old platform? And if there are enough reserves, for how long will it last? The second question is if it is not enough for the needs of the country, do we have to build another platform to produce the same oil? And for how long will that be?
Right. Okay. Let me answer the first question, sir. And this is based on pronouncements from the DOE, as I understand it too. The economic life of the field is forecast to last until 2027, no? Or maybe 3.5 years from now. Now, let me explain what that means. When a field is, we say, depleted, it doesn't mean that there is no more gas or there's no more oil reserves left there in the ground. It only means that the amount of oil, the rate of oil production or the rate of gas production, the value of that is much less than the operating cost and maintenance being spent.
Okay.
Therefore, it's a losing proposition. But
Yeah.
there's still oil or gas left there. That situation, they say, will be arrived at sometime in 2027. Okay. So the next step would be two things. First, find ways to increase your production from the same field, and or start drilling new exploration wells to establish new reserves that you can tie in to the available or current infrastructure or current platform in Malampaya. And that's what you will hear as the DOE is saying, that there are other prospects, let's say prospects available to be drilled for potential or additional reserves that can be easily developed and connected to Malampaya. Okay, how big they are, we don't know, but if they are commercial, then it can be done. It can be connected. Now the question really is, if that is the case, and usually the prospects around the field are lower risk than prospects farther away from the field. If that is the case, why did we not, again, the next question is, why didn't we get PNOC to do it, and get the maximum benefit to it? After all, it's lower risk than most other, exploration efforts that will be made in the area, because it's right there next, very close to the existing field. So that question, why give it away? You've studied it for 20 years since you started producing. You know where these prospects are, and all of a sudden we say, okay, there are still other potential reserves here. You go find it and be part of it. Why don't you take it all? And again, that's what the what most countries, would do. Where the risk is low, you take it. In China, for example, if a service contractor, if a foreign company finds oil and proves that it is commercial, the oil company, the National Oil Company of China, will come in automatically, according to their condition, their contract, up to 51%. And they will contribute the same amount of money, 51%, to the development. But they will take it. They will take the shares right away, because they know the profits are huge, and they want to get it for themselves, for the country.
Can I have a follow-up
Did
question?
that answer your question?
Yeah, but I have a follow-up question.
Yes,
If you
please.
build on a new site, how long will it take to make it produce?
So as an example, the Malampaya, because this is in deep water, I mean, the technology is harsh, the conditions are tough, but I would say a maximum of 4 or 5 years.
So even if you have new site, there is no assurance that we will be able to produce for the needs of the country. Am I right?
No, if you are going to build new platforms, that's what I'm saying. But if you can connect, if you can connect the new field that you discover to the existing platform, then it will be much quicker.
Okay, that's quite clear.
Yeah. No, if you're going to build a new infrastructure, new platform, you're a little farther away, then it will take a little longer, maybe 4 or 5 years to construct the platform and install it. But if you find a nearby field and all you have to do is tie in the well, to the Malampaya platform itself, and then you can deliver your gas all the way to Batangas already, and that can be quick.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Hector and Yusek Manyala. Actually, we have more media friends here. We have someone from Palawan News, Mr. Redempto Anda. He's the editor and publisher of Palawan News. Mr. Redempto Anda. So, Jared, can you please check if he's still here?
I cannot see his name, Doctor.
Okay. So, anyway, we have someone from Associated Press, Mr. Jim Gomez. Is he still here? If you would like to, he's the chief correspondent of Associated Press. Would you like to ask this question? Are they still here?
Yes, but I sent him to promote the panelists, but he haven't accepted.
All right. So maybe coming from GMA News, anybody from GMA News who would like to ask a question? They're still here?
Yeah, yes. Yes. I asked them to request them to promote the panel.
All right.
I think Sir Jim already accepted.
Okay.
Wait.
All right. Thank you. We'll just wait for him.
Okay.
Okay, Sir Jim, the floor is yours. Sir Jim Gomez from Associated Press, the chief correspondent of Associated Press. Sir Jim Gomez. So Jim, do you have a question for Yusek Manyala?
Oh, I don't think they accept, Doctor.
Okay, so maybe uh, all right. Okay, there's a question from Priam Nepomuceno from the Philippine News Agency. Sir, he's a reporter of the Philippine News Agency. Can you please promote him as a panelist or JR?
Philippine News. What's the name again? Para sir.
Priam Nepomuceno. Mr. He's still there?
I sent him the request already, Doctor.
Okay, so at least he's still there. Sir Priam, the floor is yours to ask the question, sir. Some of the questions of our Zoom registrants will not be read anymore because actually Yusek Manyalak answered their questions actually during the presentation and during the how do you call it when the panelists ask questions to Yusek Manyalak. All right. Actually, the question, maybe I can just read the question of Sir Priam, right? His question to Yusek Manyalak is Malampaya still viable? That's his question from the Philippine News Agency, Mr. Priam Nepomuceno.
Is the what?
Is Malampaya still viable? That's the question, Mr. Nepomuceno.
Yes, it's still very much viable. As I've said earlier, again, based on statements and estimates by the DOE, that the economic life of the field will not be reached until 2027, and maybe even longer than that. So it is viable. The important thing is that you already have the infrastructure set up, no? It is fully paid, it is owned by the government, the pipeline is owned by the government, and that the government should now encourage its national oil company, to start drilling in and around the field to discover and try to establish additional reserves, additional gas reserves, so that it can quickly connect it to the existing platform right now and make use of the resource very quickly.
All right.
Yes, it is still very much viable.
Thank you very much, Yusek Manyalang. I think Mr. Reynold Banda is raising his hand. Okay. Mr. Banda, Sir JR, could you please promote him as a panelist?
I sent him the
And
request already,
Before
Doctor.
we will entertain his question, I would like to ask this question coming from Mr. Glenn Bengwa. He's a retiree from the energy and chemical and utilities industry. Are there proven reserves around Malampaya that could make the platform commercially viable to operate post, say, 2026 to 30? Do we have an idea of the results of all the NFEs done in the past? Who will shoulder the abandonment cost of the facility? That's the question.
Okay, I think you know, most of these questions should, I think should be directed to the DOE. But
Oh.
from my knowledge, based again on the information they have released during the Senate hearings, they have identified several prospects in and around the Malampaya field. And their estimate of these prospects reserves total to about over 800 billion cubic feet of gas, which is about a third of the approved reserves of Malampaya field itself. So there's still a lot of significant amount of potential gas reserves in and around Malampaya that should be tested, that should be drilled. And what we're saying here is that if PNOC took over this Malampaya and was the one earning the 300 million a year, then that's the same money, or that's more than enough money that you can use to further explore and hopefully lengthen the life of the field.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yusek Manyala. And the one who raised his hand, Sir JR, is he already there?
Yeah, he
Who raised his
declined
hand?
for the
Okay,
promotion,
so if
Doctor.
that's the case, so he declined to be a panelist because he was raising his hand. All right, Yusek, there is a question from, of course, I'm not given the permission to tell his name. What
Yes.
more can be done to convince government to do what is right for the Filipino people?
I think that's a question that we've been wrestling with, Doctora.
Yes, yes,
I think we concluded at one point that we need to really get to President BBM, to get him to make sure that at least he understands the law and the intent, the objectives, and the benefits that will be derived from whatever decision he makes. I think we agreed on that would be the best and maybe the only way to and even then we are not sure whether that decision will be the desired decision that we're looking for. But at least our goal was to get to him, get to the president and explain to him how how we understand the PD-87 and service contract was meant to operate.
All right.
Bottom line is money, the money that is needed by government now is here in Malampaya and is available to you if you allow the PNOC to run and operate it and run it himself.
Thank you so much, Yusek Manyalak. Maybe I would like to take this opportunity, since this is in public, Mr. President, or His Excellency Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., we are requesting again if you can give us some kind of a schedule for the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea to have a meeting with you. And of course, not only the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, we have our veteran exploration geologist here, Yusek Eduardo Manyala. So in order to explain the law, and hopefully there will be some kind of enlightening on the Malampaya gas field, and in order for the government to have a full control of the Malampaya, as like Yusek Manyala, of course, there is wealth in our Malampaya. That's 100 million pesos a day, President Marcos, that you can use. Especially you are looking for money or funds for this Maharlika funds. It can be used for the benefit of and the welfare of our Filipino people. Thank you so much. I hope our cry, I would say, appeal, President Marcos, will reach you. And I'm sure there are some participants here who might be able to convey our request to President Marcos. And we have the media here, so hopefully our open letter will be also published in some media who are present here, media network. Thank you so much. Now I think some of the questions have been. It's 10 o'clock past 10 p.m. and there
Doctora,
is one I would like to ask this question from Mr. Antonio Andrade, Yusek Manyala.
yeah.
He is a farmer from Legazpi City. What are the effects of the contract extension to Philippine agriculture? Thank you, Yusek.
I might not be in the position to answer that, Again, the key effect of this, as in any other business, is the huge amount of money, the huge amount of wealth that oil and gas can bring to a nation. Oil and gas can make a nation very rich and progressive, and hence, and whether it can affect the agricultural side, you can. In other words, you will have the resources, just like any other oil-producing countries, where you hear, yes, they can afford to do this, they can afford to do that. That's because they have the financial resources to do it. And whatever that is required in agriculture, what I mentioned earlier, 100 million a day for 50 million each for Odena, for Dennis Uy and Enrique Razon, can buy a lot of hand tractors for our farmers. They can buy a lot big, huge fishing vessels for our fishermen. Build 5-story buildings, classrooms, etc. That will not, so that we will not be short of classrooms anymore. I mean, it can be used, to a number of things that the country needs. I think that would be the answer. what in agriculture we need modernization, good equipment, technology. Then we can start buying. We can start affording, be able to afford those things. Thank you.
Check Manila. So, Mr. Uh, with regard to the agriculture, of course, Yusek Manialak, you really excellently answered the question of our Zoom registrant, and I think um, if we have for those questions that were not answered, and please feel free to email the info@nymwps.net. It's right there. You can see it. And also you can see, how when you register, there is an email address there that you can email, like celia.lamkin@yahoo.com, or the info@nymwps.net. So there, those are our social media platforms. And of course, Yusek Manyalak, I think from the excellent answers to the questions of our panelists and even our Zoom registrants, and most of them have received, actually, they're satisfied, I'm sure, with your answers to their questions, and even those who gave us the permission to mention their names and they have questions, some of them were being asked already. So I didn't mention the name and their questions anymore. All right. So thank you very much.
Dr. Celia,
Apo.
may I'd like to make a personal statement, no,
All right.
to close my discussion here. I'd
All
like to read a personal statement directly to Mr. Razon.
Okay, sir. Okay,
uh, as a final response to his media statement.
all right.
Okay. All right. And thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Razon, you and I don't know each other, apart from what other people say and what we have heard of each other. When I first read this statement from Prime Infra's chairman, my first reaction was that someone else probably wrote it for you. My knowledge of you is limited to your reputation as a highly respected industrial business leader. Such a man would not make light of such accusations. But let me tell you something about myself that I assume you don't know. Mr. Razon, I am Eduardo Manyalak E. Valenzuela, the oldest grandson of Dr. Pio Valenzuela, who together with Gat Andres Bonifacio and General Antonio Luna founded the Kataas-Taasang Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga Anak ng Bayan, or KKK, a heritage I like to think we both share. The Katipunan, as you know, led the Philippine Revolution for independence against the Spanish colonizers. My grandfather was tried, imprisoned, and exiled by the Spaniards. As for me, and I've been explained by Dr. Celia earlier, I am a petroleum geologist. My sole motive in this enterprise is for fair play based on the law and the contracts. The people's interests have long been trampled upon and stolen from. The reason I want Malampaya returned to the people is for them to get a fair share of the bounty under the law from their own natural resources. They have been lied to and cheated out of what is rightfully theirs. More than 100 years after that fateful revolution, where my Lolo Pio was persecuted, the poor continue to be oppressed tyrannized. I have been told, Mr. Razon, by others. No, I have been warned by others about the great power that you wield, about the pressure that that your unequaled authority can exert on others to do your bidding. In fact, I was told by a well-known journalist that in 6 months, you would use that very power to, and I quote, destroy me. But I'm nobody, Mr. Razon. Sir, no one certainly that can equal your status and stature. Destroying me will mean nothing in the larger scheme of things. But we have much more in common than you give yourself credit for, Mr. Razon. You are a known philanthropist, apparently using your great wealth to help the poorest of our poor. Your company goals are described as socially relevant. What better goal then to uplift our poor by granting them the bounty of our natural resources? A great wrong has been committed here, and you are in an ideal position to tell our government that they were wrong in approving the deal that wrested this bounty from our people. Only you have the power to correct that mistake. You, Mr. Razon, you must help me right that wrong by returning Malampaya to our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusek Manyalak, and for that very, I would say, enlightening and an excellent
I
statement
hope powerful.
and powerful. Yes. Yes, like what Sir MP said,
I
it
think
was
it is.
moving. It is a powerful statement, very enlightening, and of course, we salute you, Yusek Manyalak. Of course, it runs in your blood of being a patriot, a hero, the great, the eldest, great grandson of Dr. Pio Valenzuela. And that explains why, until now, of course, we are always fighting for what is better for the lives of the Filipino people and for a better Philippines. Maraming salamat po, Yusek Manyala.
Maraming
Thank
salamat
you
din.
very much po. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. And now we would like to, of course, again, I would like to, on behalf of the National Youth Movement, Yusek Manyala, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude and sincerest appreciation for your very informative, comprehensive, excellent presentation, and excellent insight. And we will continue our advocacy until we succeed. Maraming salamat po. Again,
Maraming salamat din po.
thank you. It's a great honor for you to be with us tonight. And the same appreciation and thanks go to our guest participants, our media friends, and global netizens. I would like to mention again our media friends because they are always our partners in disseminating information to the public. Special mention to the, I would say, I think I mentioned already our, we have CNN Philippines actually, GMA News, ABS-CBN, TV5. We have Business Mirror, Palawan News, Associated Press, and I think I mentioned the Business Mirror already. And we have Mr. Rush. Is he still here? Si Greg Rashford. He's an international investigative journalist from Virginia, USA. Thank you so much for being here. And Of course, I would like to mention, we have, I was given the permission to mention some of the diplomats. I would like to thank the Department of Foreign Affairs because they help us to disseminate the information to their network. And since we invited some diplomats and they attended in this webinar, I don't need to mention their names. Maraming salamat po sa Department of Foreign Affairs. And we have also, I would say, the government employees, the professors, the lawyers. We have the DILG, and I think I mentioned that. And of course, the APO, the Alpha Sigma. Thank you. Maraming salamat po. And for the media reporters, we have Irene Gomez from CNN, Mr. Redempto Anda of Palawan News. Again, I would like to mention because they are our partners when it comes to creating public awareness. Mr. Jim Gomez of Associated Press, the GMA News team. We have Priya Nepomuceno of the Philippine News Agency. Maraming salamat po. Miss Lenny Lectura of the Business Mirror. We have Miss Francis Mangosing of Inquirer, Mr. Greg Rashford of Virginia, and we have Miss Pe Tudela of ABS-CBN, and all the media friends who are here. Maraming salamat po. And of course, to our great panelists, Honorable Maurice Albaida. I have to make this in gallery already, so I'll be seeing all of you. All right, we have Mr. Maurice Philip Albaida. Ma'am Rialyn Limbo, unfortunately, she wasn't able to connect all the way from Pag-asa Island because of the very weak signal in Pag-asa Island in Kalayaan. Sir Angelo Pedro, my co-host, and of course, Captain Caruso Tagal, Sir Gerard Estelia. Thank you so much. And he is also our tech support. And maraming salamat, Sir JR. Engineer Rad Abarientos. Maraming salamat,
Thank you
Engineer
po.
Rad. Thank you so much. And we have, and of course, I would like to thank my husband, Professor Ron Lampkin. He is also a member of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, advisor and consultant. And he is my co-producer of this West Philippine Sea Catch. We have Ma'am Eleanor Balyaran. She's in charge of the social media right now. She's sharing all these links to the social media. And she's the South Korea country chairperson. And of course, Sir Sunny Fernandez, maraming salamat po, independent journalist, and the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines. Maraming salamat po. And to everyone na hindi ko po nabanggit, to all the participants, I would like to thank all of you. And I would like to have a little announcement on Sunday. That will be May 28th. That will be the 40th day from the time our beloved late Ambassador Albert Del Rosario. We will be having a special tribute on Sunday. That will be from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we will be sharing the Zoom link in order to join this event. Right? Maraming salamat po. And of course, let's give them a round of applause for everyone, Yusek Manyalak, and to all the panelists and everyone who asked all those questions. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Now
Dan.
for the closing remarks, may
Thank
we
you.
call now Sir Angelo Pedro.
Thank you, Doc. As we come to an end of this enlightening webinar, I urge you all to carry forward the invaluable lessons and insights shared by Yusek Manyalak, particularly in the context of government operations and administration. This informative webinar gave me a realization that the principles of transparency, reliability, and competency hold immense significance in building trust between the government and its citizens. Transparency, when embraced by government, fosters an environment where the actions and decisions of public officials are open, accessible, and accountable. It enables citizens to have clear understanding of how their government operates, how policies are formulated, and how resources are allocated. When we see reliability in the context of government, it is crucial for establishing a sense of dependability and consistency in delivering public services. Citizens expect their government to function reliably, ensuring that essential services are provided efficiently and effectively. And by demonstrating reliability, governments can instill confidence in their ability to meet the needs of the people and to fulfill their responsibilities with unwavering commitment. And also, competency enables government to navigate intricate issues, adapt to changing circumstances, and provide evidence-based solutions to the pressing problems faced by the country, just like what is transpired through this West Philippine Sea Catch of National Youth Movement for West Philippine Sea. And as we conclude this webinar, I encourage each of you to carry forward these principles in your interactions with government, be it as public officials, civil servants, or engaged citizens. Demand transparency, hold the government accountable, and advocate for reliable and competent governance. Together, let us work towards a future where transparency, reliability, and competency become the cornerstones of government operations and fostering a more prosperous and equitable society for all. As it is also under the watch of National Youth Movement for West Philippine Sea to make the government be informed and enlightened, as the organization wants to help the Philippine government to achieve its mandate and to serve our beloved Philippines. Thank you for your participation and for the West Philippine Sea. Catch Season 3, Episode 6 of the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea.
Thank you very much, Sir Angelo, for that very empowering closing remarks. And now I would like to ask everyone, so as always, it's a tradition, we can have a photo gallery. So Sir JR, can you please promote everyone so we can have a group picture, please, before we end this webinar? For those who would like to be a part of this group picture, please kindly accept to be a panelist, so you can be in this in the photo gallery. I will try to help you, Sir JR. So they can be with us. We have Ma'am V Natividad. All right. All right, that's good. It's good to have a group picture. Oh, Attorney Anna Marie, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you. I
Yes.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh,
Enlightening.
thank you. Thank you. Hope to see you on Sunday, the special tribute to Secretary De Rosario.
Yes,
We'll
thank you.
Thank you. All right. So thank you so much. So anyway, let's have, yes, everyone, please kindly accept to be promoted as a panelist so you can be part of this group picture. You're welcome, Attorney Anna Marie. All right, Sir JR, I'm trying to help everyone to be promoted. Are they already?
I think that's about it. Nasenda na po natin lahat din po.
Okay. All right. So maybe let's have a picture. Sir JR, are you gonna do it or me? Sir
Maybe
Angelo?
Apo.
All right. Can we have all our smiles? All right. Then on your end, Sir JR, would you like to get one? Also answer.
Sige po.
Okay, please.
Sige po.
Thank you.
1, 2, smile. 3. Okay na po.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And to everyone, again, maraming salamat po. This is the Season 3, Episode 6 of the West Philippine Sea Catch, the PBBM Razon Malampaya Renewal, the who, the what, and the why. Again, so we'll see you on Sunday, 8 p.m. Manila time for the special tribute of late Secretary Albert Del Rosario. All right. So again, thank you very much. God bless and mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Again,
Mabuhay ang
Yusek
Pilipinas.
Manyala, maraming salamat po. It's a great honor for you to be our
Thank you,
guest.
Yusek.
Mabuhay po
Thank
kayo.
you, Yusek Manyala.
Thank you.
Mabuhay
Thank
po
you,
kayo.
Yusek, Brad, Ed, Manyala.
Thank you. Thank
And of
you.
course, thank you, Dr. Celia Lamkin.
You're welcome, Engineer Ran.
Yes.
All right.
She